chat rooms and other online communications with undercover FBI operatives. He was charged on one count of conspiracy to provide material support to foreign terrorist organizations, including Al-Shabaab in Africa and other extremist organizations operating in Syria, such as Al-Qaeda. The 27-year-old Kenyan faces a maximum 15-year prison term when he will be arraigned in court in August. The case began when the FBI agents were monitoring internet chat rooms frequently visited by extremists. FBI undercover employees posed as terrorism recruiters and fundraisers in communications with Saeed and a co-defendant, Gufran Mohammed, who is already serving a 15-year sentence after pleading guilty in 2014. Saeed was living in Mombasa and he had never been to the US before he was arrested. Let's move to Narok now. Baringo County, where protests by farmers turned violent after rangers manning an AP camp opened fire at demonstrators. We'll have details of that shortly. But first to Baringo County, where the Speaker, William Kamket, was yesterday denied access to the county offices, by members of the County Assembly. The MCAs who are opposed to Kamket's return insisted that despite the lifting of his suspension by an Eldoret court, he still was not welcome to the Assembly. Francis Mtalaki has the details.
Baringo County Speaker William Kamket was denied access by the members of the County Assembly days after the Eldoret High Court lifted his suspension.
You didn't get the ruling of the court?
According to the MCAs led by the Majority Leader Elijah Toroitich, the embittled Speaker still has a criminal case and cannot be allowed at the Assembly.
Napiga hodi mrudi kazini kulingana na ruling ya kotini.
Ruling ilikuwa inasema you don't use that ruling kukuja ku nini Assembly. Yeah, najua bado uko na kesi mingi.
You have won round 1.
Yes.
Sasa fuata round 2.
Round 2.
So hii iko Nakuru ukimaliza ndugu yangu kuja kwa amea karibu.
Asante sana.
Kamket was voted out as Baringo County Speaker in March after the MCAs accused him of supporting cattle rustling in the area that has experienced persistent fighting among the communities.
Few elements, in my opinion, are busybodies who are still in denial that the court, the Honorable Court in Eldoret and the Honorable Court in Nakuru has reinstated me as the duly elected Speaker of Baringo County Assembly.
You should not be coming all the time, because the stand is still that he should stay away, because as an assembly, we are now saying he is not the Speaker of this assembly. We have already removed him.
He is just seeking political mileage by coming to a place where he knows very clearly that he was removed by the very members who elected him.
I do not want to earn a salary for doing nothing. I want to work for the people of Baringo. So since there is this skewed interpretation of the law, what I'm going to do moving forward is that I'm going to help those who don't understand the law so that they can understand the law better.
Kamket has filed a case at the Nakuru Industrial Court challenging his impeachment by the County Assembly, but in this instance, he was left with no choice but to bow down to the demands of the 40 MCAs who voted him out. Francis Mtalaki, KTN.
51% of Kenyans are happy with the gains made in the devolved system of governance introduced in the 2010 Constitution. Now, this is according to a survey conducted by Infotrack Research Company. And according to the findings, out of the 10 counties surveyed, 17.1% of Kenyans believe that not much has really changed since devolution was introduced, while 12.4% say things are now worse than before. Out of those polled, Machakos residents ranked highest, with 85.3% of them saying things are better than before. Bomet County is the second happiest at 81% and Bungoma is third at 75%. Nairobi residents are, however, the least happy, with only 60% saying there has been improvement. This poll was only conducted in 10 counties. Leaders from the Samburu, Turkana and Pokot and also Baringo counties have signed a peace agreement in a bid to end the series of killings over cattle rustling among them. Speaking during the meeting in Baragoi, Tiati Member of Parliament Asman Kamama faulted police officers deployed in cattle rustling prone areas for what he called inefficiency. Kamama says the police are not doing enough to bring the perpetrators of past killings to book. He further urged residents to collaborate with security agencies so as to restore peace to the area.
Gavana awe mzuri awe mbaya, Londoimaka awe mzuri awe mbaya, Seneta awe mzuri awe mbaya, amani ni lazima. Hatuwezi kukubali kufa kwa sababu Londoimaka ni mbaya. Hatuwezi kukubali kuuana kwa sababu Seneta ni mbaya. Hiyo hapana.
Sisi tumetengeneza sheria kupitia ofisi ya Rais, security laws imesema lazima kuwe na one command.
The new Nigerian leader, Muhammadu Buhari, is going to be sworn in amid an acute fuel shortage and insecurity. But as KTN's special correspondent Alex Chamwada now reports, there could still be many lessons for Kenya to learn from the transition in Nigeria.
Nigeria is Africa's largest economy and the most populous nation on the continent. Her population is estimated at 174 million people. The country is Africa's top crude oil producer and 6th in the world. But President-elect Muhammadu Buhari will be inheriting a limping economy, an economic crisis analysts say is a mockery of the country's economic might.
The outgoing president is from Niger Delta, where we'll get petroleum. It's not a baby to know that in 4 years, 5 years has been in power, that he ought to have built one single refinery. He never built a single one. There are 3 existing ones that are not functioning.
It would have been very, very lucrative if we refined our produce, crude oil, and then sell it overseas. When you refine a crude, you have up to 200 other byproducts. Besides petrol, besides kerosene, besides diesel, there are so many other products.
The outgoing president, Goodluck Jonathan, a former vice president, was installed as the 14th president of Nigeria on May 10, 2010, following the death of Umaru Yar'Adua, and won the subsequent 2011 elections with 59% of the votes against Muhammadu Buhari.
He's very humble, reachable, accessible, a man who is just trying to be like any other human being. But the problem is that he did not prepare for this job, because people prepare for leadership.
I have said he stabilized the economy. Yes, when there was crisis in Europe and other nations were afraid, Nigerian economy was stable.
This is the first time an incumbent will be handing over power to an opposition leader, and out there expectations are very high. Buhari will be taking over power when there is energy crisis in Nigeria. 72-year-old Buhari, a former military ruler, has unsuccessfully vied for the presidency 3 times. He is widely seen to be incorruptible. What if Buhari lets you down, maybe in 100 days?
He will not let us down. Our prayers will not don't even go back. You are entirely playing Okosha style, dribbling backward. Don't go backward.
President Jonathan is, however, on record as defending his government against corruption allegations, saying the claims were politically motivated. His move to accept defeat, however, was hailed as a positive signal of a maturing democracy. When it comes to the management of the elections, Nigeria's electoral body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, has been hailed as having taken Nigeria's electoral process to a level worth being emulated after introducing technology that worked. This was a complete departure from the past chaotic elections in Nigeria, according to Mercy Njoroge, who was an observer with the citizen observer groups during the election.
The question goes back to preparations and timing, allowing yourself as an EMB adequate time, starting to plan early. For instance, Kenya is having elections 2017, thereabout. How is the commission preparing itself in terms of ensuring that all voters that are eligible to vote then are able to register as voters? Procurement of critical aspects, be it technologies, be it other material that will be used for the elections, training of staff. So elections are all about logistics. 90% or so is about logistics.
Felix Odhiambo of the Electoral Institute for Sustainable Democracy in Africa has also observed many elections on the continent, and here is his take on what can be learned from the Nigerian experience.
The level of civic awareness in Nigeria. People were so sensitized, probably partly because of Boko Haram insurgency or other factors. But the citizens of Nigerians approaching this year's election, there was a perception of very serious citizens' awareness and civic awareness. And this was also done through sensitization, voter education, among others.
Nevertheless, some observers claimed that indeed there were signs of manipulation by the ruling party, but that did not have a significant effect on the will of the people.
There are many lessons that one could learn from INEC as a body, and there are also lessons that could be learned from the Kenyan electoral process. Context is key.
And then, of course, democratize political parties. Political parties play a crucial role. They need to be democratized.
It will be interesting to see if Nigeria's elections would have a ripple effect on Africa's forthcoming elections. From Abuja, I'm Alex Chamwada for KTN.
Quite the presidential term awaiting Muhammadu Buhari, who is now officially president after he was sworn in about 20 minutes ago in Nigeria. But back home, the Kenya Disability Parliamentary Association is demanding 5% nomination slots in Parliament and a special kitty for representatives of special interest groups. Led by their chairman, Isaac Mwaura, the association said the August 27th affirmative action deadline was not meant for women alone.
We are insisting that those MPs, women MPs who may come on board as gender top-up, 5% of them must be women with disabilities, at least. Number two, we are demanding 22 slots in the National Assembly specifically for persons with disabilities under Article 97. We want 22 slots specifically, that's 5% of 290. Plus the women. We need 22 slots of persons with disabilities, both men and women. And number three is that if that situation was to remain, if we are not going to increase the number of MPs, then out of the 12 slots, so-called nomination, but for us we know it's special interest groups, and therefore an election under Article 90, we are saying 4 out of the 12 must be 2 men and 2 women with disabilities.
Our colleagues who are members of parliament go to their constituencies, to their counties, to do oversight role. We are going to 47 counties. And if it means being facilitated, I think we require more facilitation compared to them. When they go to one county, we are going to 47 counties. So the issue of discriminating legislators with disabilities by giving us only one office in Nairobi, it is making us not to give quality services to the people we are representing.
As we debate about the gender rule, the two-third gender rule, all kinds of suggestions have come up. But I think we need to be very clear. One of the areas that must be addressed properly is how we are going to meet the 5% threshold for the members with disability to be in parliament.
All right, we take a short commercial break, but don't go too far. My colleague Joy Doreen Bira is coming your way after the break, and she's asking what space microinsurance occupies and whether or not it's growing. Jonah Tomno, the MD of Amaco Insurance, is also in studio to help with that discussion. Stay tuned.
Welcome to this part where we do talk to people in business and they tell us about what they know. And today in studio with me is the CEO for Africa Merchants Assurance Company, or Amaco Insurance, and he's here to speak to us about growing microinsurance. Welcome to studio, Mr. Jonah Tomno. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Let's first start by talking about the current status of insurance in the country today.
Thank you very much. Insurance business in this country has not done very well. There is a great potential and a great opportunity for investors to grow their business in these markets. As we speak today, there are 48 insurance companies that are doing business in this market. And I think we are all familiar with the statistics that have been going around, that the penetration rate is at about 3.2, slightly below 3.5%. That is the reality, and therefore that tells us the great potential that exists in the insurance industry.
Right, you talk about great potential, and we're looking at 3.2% penetration. That means that there's no competition at all. How are we growing the competition to a level where we say everybody can access insurance?
On the contrary, many of the players in the industry believe that at 48 in number, the insurance companies that are licensed, there is already too much competition. And therefore, especially the small players, have a very small market share, which gives them very, very little opportunity to grow, to invest in growth, and so that we can grow the business even more. So in terms of competition, there is too much competition. The greatest challenge is, how do we create the awareness? There is a great potential, but the uptake, the demand, is still quite limited.
But what are insurance companies doing? Because if you're saying that 48 companies, there's already too much competition in the market, but you see there are a lot of gaps, especially when you look at micro insurance. Microinsurance, I think there's a whole lot of products that we can sell to the informal sector, which insurance companies are not doing, for instance. Why do you think this is so?
Absolutely. The greatest opportunity actually in insurance is in the low end of the market, popularly known as microinsurance. But the greatest challenge is the cost of developing that market. The transactional costs associated with trading in that market become very inhibiting for the players in that market. For a very long time, the margins in insurance business are not as high, and therefore the capacity to invest in growing the market becomes a bit of a challenge. And for us to grow microinsurance, we need to create a lot of awareness, we need to do a lot of training, and the distribution network as it exists today is quite limiting in terms of growing that market.
But are you taking the time to go down there to the informal sector? Because we're looking at people like Joe Kali, a lot of house helps in the country today do not have insurance whatsoever. And in some sectors, they're encouraging that when these individuals are being sold insurance packages, they should come in, say, form of chamas or small organizations. But how exactly are you creating awareness on that?
True, it is a lot easier to sell microinsurance through groups. It's a lot more difficult to sell to individuals because the premiums associated with microinsurance are very low. And therefore, if you were to go around selling, to individuals, it would not be practical. The way insurance has been done in this country is that it is more geared towards the formal sector, where, for example, life insurance is sold through individual sales agents. And for the formal and the, say, the SME market, it is normally distributed through independent agents. But they can only reach so far.
So what products is Amaco selling to the informal sector as a whole as we wind up?
Thank you very much. Amaco is a general underwriter. That means we do the general classes of insurance, the entire range. The only general class that we do not do as Amaco is medical insurance. And as one of the big players in the market, we have a very wide branch network, which gives us the opportunity to reach a very, very wide market segment. As a matter of fact, we have 24 branches, which makes us one of the companies with the biggest branch spread across the country.
Right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. We do appreciate the time taken to come and speak to us about growing microfinance. Jonah Tomno there speaking to us about growing micro insurance, and he is the CEO for Amaco Insurance. Well, I'll now hand you over to Edith, who has all the sporting action.
Thank you, Joy. Let's have a look at what's happening in the football world. And all of the 2009 football federations are represented at the FIFA Congress in Zurich. FIFA presidential elections will take place later in the day. Incumbent Joseph Sepp Blatter is seeking his 5th term and will be challenged by 39-year-old Jordanian Prince Ali bin Al Hussein. Brazil would, however, not be there after reports from the country that Marco Polo Del Nero, the president of the Brazilian Football Federation, had fled Zurich after the arrest of Executive Committee member Jose Maria Marin. This means 4 of the 25 FIFA Executive Committee members may be absent. Jeffrey Webb from Cayman Islands and Eduardo Lee from Costa Rica are under arrest, while England's David Gill has announced he will refuse to attend if Blatter is re-elected for a 5th term. Kenya's Sam Nyamweya, a close ally of Blatter, is in Zurich, meaning Kenya will vote in Blatter. Before the vote is cast, each of the 2 candidates will be given 15 minutes to address the delegates. And at home, the national women's football team, that's right, we have a women's football team, Harambee Starlets, maintains that it will qualify for the next round of the Olympic qualifiers. The Starlets lost its away match 1-2 to Botswana last weekend and must win on Sunday in Machakos to advance.
Kenya's last outing in the Olympic qualifiers turned unsuccessful as the Starlets lost 2-1 away. But that away goal and the home advantage on Sunday is what the girls are banking on to advance in the Olympic qualifiers. Coach David Ouma, who was training his goalkeepers at the Safaricom Stadium in Kasarani on Thursday afternoon, expressed optimism in a match his girls must win by 2 goals to advance.
Wachezaji wangu wako na uwezo wa kuweza kugeuza hiyo mechi na ikakuwa tukaweza kuebuka washindi kwa mechi ambayo tunaenda kucheza. Sasa sisi tunajaribu kuendelea kutilia maanani kuwa tuweze kusail through kwa mechi ambayo tutacheza na Botswana ya marudio.
Football Kenya Federation has waived gate charges with the aim of attracting sizable crowds at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos.
Naweza kaomba wa Kenya pia waweze kuja kushangilia hii timu ya kina dada, na kwa kweli wana uwezo mkubwa zaidi.
Kenya has never sent a football team to the Olympics. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
Time now to wrap up this edition of KTN Newsdesk, but not before I give you your Did You Know fact, and boy is it good today. Did you know that your memories, i.e. when you remember things, are like playing a game of telephone? So every time you recall an event, your brain distorts it. So basically, each time you remember something that happened in the past, you're actually remembering the last time you remembered it. That's like Inception. Are you now thinking about the last time you remembered something and whether or not it was a real memory? I know, it's quite trippy. My name is Edith Kimani. Good afternoon.